902 edge banding machine installation and use video. First, after receiving the machine, find our accessories, then assemble. Let's start by putting the machine. This tape tray for mounting. There is a hole in the side of the machine. There's a hexagonal screw on it. After you take it down, then line up this hole, screwed directly into place. After the square tube is fixed, and then I'm going to assemble our tripod. The triangular bracket consists of 3 bearing rods, and then a hexagonal mother of pearl. The sides of the hexagonal locking nut are silk screwed. Screw the bearing rods directly onto the screws. Then find the center shaft in the middle of our pallet, and then through to the outermost part of our square tubing. Inside this big hole, secured with nuts underneath. After it's fixed, then place our bearing bracket directly on top. And then on top of that, we have our black tape tray. And then the height of our tote tray. It's roughly level with the machine's countertop. Then the height is determined by the position of these 2 nuts down here. To adjust the height of the tape tray, after the adjustment is completed, this snap must hold the screw. Then find our vacuum bags. There's a flange on the back of the machine. This mouth. Directly after putting our cloth bag mouth directly into it, there's a ligature on it. Just tie it off with a lanyard and you're good to go. Location of our control box installations. It's got 2 set screws. Remove the 2 screws first, after dismantling, and then our control box. There's a notch underneath it that goes vertical, and then when it goes down, and then crosswise from the top with screws. Fix this again. Here's the one from the white base plate with the wire fasteners. Then just tighten it down. Then next we'll install one of the widening on either side of the machine. This widening installation. First find our bracket for this bearing rod. This bracket has screws on both ends, and then remove this screw on our side. After dismantling, corresponding to the location of the 2 screw holes, just put it on. Once installed, both sides are mounted the same way. It's one side of A. This screw comes with the original machine. Take it off first. After you take it off, and then just have this bearing housing face down, then you just screw right into it. Then this bearing bracket is installed. Be sure to pay attention. This side of the notch is facing outward, and then high and low. It's held in place by this screw, and then this yellow wheel. It's roughly level with our conveyor belt tracks. Support SDH. Once adjusted, lock the screws in place and you're good to go. Then we'll assemble it. We imported this extension plate. This screw for the extension plate. It's all in this plastic bag. Bring it forward. After you take it out, at the entrance of our machine, there are 4 holes, and then these 4 holes. It corresponds to this position on our extension board. Then use the Phillips screws to hold it in place. Be sure to tighten this screw when you install it, because when it enters, acts as a support for the sheet. And then after this screw is fixed, then we'll assemble it. A cushion for one of our entrance extensions, and then this time of leaning. The one that comes with our machine is a straight line. You can find a plate to compare. Then the screws. Use one of our spring spacers. There's also a flat pad to hold it in place. And then this place is a long hole. It's easy for us to adjust and lean in a straight line. And then our plugs. It's plugged right into our electrical plug. Then energize. And then there's an air hose at the entrance to the machine. This trachea is an 8mm trachea, directly connected to our compressor air pump. Plug it in and power it up. Then we can do the work of defeeding and braking and trimming. After powering up entrances, we have this emergency stop switch in this location. This traffic light has an emergency stop switch. Rotate right to pop right out. Then the power supply. Then the machine is warming up. And then we're up there in red. Is showing our actual heating temperature. Here are the set temperatures. To adjust the temperature, press the thermostat setting button. Adjustable up and down. Press the setup button again when the adjustment is complete. Then, when the temperature is reached, we start our sealing process. And then 2 governors. The speed ratios need to be matched by us. Then turn both switches on. And then trimming this switch in this position. Just open them all at once. Then put the boards to seal the edges. Then we have to pay attention when we put the sealing tape down. There are 2 height limits at the entrance. These 2 height limits are naturally falling on the edging tape. No gap between top and bottom. And then it goes to our cutter machine without sealing the edges. The incision is closed. It's only after we get the plates in, touching our belt feeder switch, the incision will open. Then feed the tape. And then over here is where we apply the glue. There's a platen. This platen in the back. It regulates whether our sealing tape is glued or not. adjust this gap with the knob. Then there's a top wire at the back and a top wire at the front. It's a size that regulates the amount of glue we have. The tighter the glue volume, the less loose this glue shaft with glue, the bigger it will be. And then there are two height limits at the exits. These two height limits, it's about 1 millimeter higher than the edge band. Place our edging tape underneath ahead of time first, then compare, and then later on our trimming. Trimming if anything doesn't fit. Just need to adjust one of our motors back and forth. Then loosen the top screw when you adjust it. It's got a seam on this side. There are 4 screws in total. After you release it, if it's too much to fix, and then we'll back our motor up a little bit. What if it's not enough? Just a little further out. The adjustments are the same for both up and down. The first one fixes the underside and the flush end. The second one is responsible for the flush and the upper trim. And then to the back, it's a shaved edge of one of our arcs. This scraped edge of the high, up here, it's moving with the height of our beams. It can also be fine-tuned in this position on the side. In addition, we have already debugged it at the factory. There's also an up and down a mock-up. This high and low, it's based on the location of our plates. There's a float up and down, and then if you say you wanted to shave a little more, you can adjust the front and back of our cutter head. Screwed, adjustable front and back when loosened. After the adjustment is complete, fasten the screws. The following is also an imitation. It moves up and down. Methods of regulation. Same thing. Loosen the screws to adjust the front and back of the cutter head to reach this angle of our arc. And then in the back is one of our polishes. Polishing is the same as scraping the edges. It's with the height of our pressure beam. Follow. If you want to adjust its front and rear individually, 4 screw length holes, then make adjustments. High and low on the side is also a long hole. If it's not that much worse, can be fine-tuned. And then the following is adjusted by our knobs. Loosen the nut when adjusting. Turn counterclockwise. Polishing motor below, it'll go up. Clockwise rotation down. Then there can be a fine-tuning before and after as well. There's a margin for all the holes in this one. After the adjustment is completed, be sure to secure all the screws and nuts.